You too can now relive the heyday of 80s rock and hair metal bands thanks to Gibson bringing out these 80s tribute guitars. It is the Explorer and the Flyng V. We're going to tell you all about them, so stick around. Hey, you're watching Alamo Music TV. My name is Chris McKee.
And my name is Cooper Greenberg.
And we're here with Alamo Music in San Antonio, Texas. You can find us online at alamomusic.com. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, turn on notifications, like our videos if you want to support the channel. Visit our spring store link below for custom swag. Check out our podcast, the Fretboard Confessional, or send a personal check to Cooper's address. Do you want to give him your address?
Yes, 425 North Main Avenue.
There you go. Make it out to Cooper Greenberg with an E, not a U. We should tell some of our employees that. So it's the 80s all over again with the Gibson Designer Series. I've got the Explorer. You've got the V.
Yeah, today's video we're talking about how to sit with a Flyng V.
And that's how you do it.
It's not easy.
Albert King taught us many years ago.
You know that one machine at the gym?
Yeah.
Like the hip abductor or adductor, whatever it is? You'll get your reps in with this bad boy. All right, if you want to go hands-free, you're going to be
need more
clenching
resistance
downtown.
than that, Cooper.
Yeah.
Straight from the 80s, man, like me.
Do you think these are the first major brand 80s reissue guitars?
No.
Are they the first from Gibson?
Yes, I think so.
Because, I mean, I guess Fender had the...
well, Fender did their HM Strat,
yeah.
right? And then you have some brands that have never left the 80s, like Kramer, which Gibson also owns. That was a staple in the 80s, continues to kind of have a lot of those designs, so and they've stayed true to that. I know Jackson has reissued things that they were popular for in the 80s. I've seen ESP do that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I mean...
We carry Gibson.
Yeah, but we carry Gibson. But what I'm saying is nostalgia is strong. And so, yeah, I was born in 81. Spoiler alert, you can do the math. So, but I remember these guitars, and we were having this debate the other day. If I was a child of the 80s or the 90s, I've been told by some of our employees that I'm a child of the 80s because my adolescence, my high school days were in the late 90s. And so there you go.
What's going to be my reissue? The 96. I don't think that was a very good time for, for anything.
Wasn't a very, very good time at all. I mean, they're already doing that with Slash's guitars. Yeah, that's your 96. It's an older than 90s.
Yeah.
So
anyways. I like a Flyng V. I mean, we've had maybe two of these, like not the 80s versions, but we've had some other Flyng Vs in here. That's got to be the first Explorer we've had in the store for years.
Well, it wasn't for lack of trying. There was a period of time, this has been a few years, and it's not Gibson's fault, and I should lead with that, but we had a string of issues with Thunderbirds and Explorers where they all came in with broken necks. Like, just UPS was like, oh, this looks like a cool box. It says Gibson on it. Boom. Let's see how far we can throw it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was kind of a frustrating thing because there were some really cool guitars.
Yeah.
But it's been a while for sure.
So let me just ask you this right off the bat. These are both ebony, matching headstocks and everything. No pickup covers. They're blacked out.
The kids today would say murdered out.
Yeah. I guess so. What do you think about the all black? As opposed to like the antique natural or the white ones or whatever. I mean,
generally speaking, particularly, I tend to like more vintage style stuff. So if I were to ever buy a V, sometimes I do this. Actually, you know what I look at on Reverb because I'm usually logged into the store's Reverb.
Yeah, I can see previously viewed, and Chris is looking at Froggy Bottoms for 50 grand.
Or was it an old Koa BC Rich Mock?
Oh, I get that, dude. That's bad.
Yeah. So yeah, I like the old style Carina stuff. The 50s reissue things. I do dig the all black. I think it's a choice. A lot of times, here's where I go on all black guitars. A lot of times I'm like, I kind of want to avoid an all black guitar because it's like an all black car. It's really hard to keep clean. It picks up every single fingerprint. But then I'll see an all black guitar hanging in our store. I'm like, damn, that's sexy. So there you go.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, it's a choice for sure that definitely puts it apart aesthetically from the other designer guitars that they have because you got like vintage white, antique natural, and then you got Inverness Green Firebirds and stuff.
Right.
This is hardcore. This is a metal guitar. Unfortunately, I'm not a metal player, so
What?
yeah, you'll notice that big time when you hear me playing these guitars. You just imagine what somebody else could
Do you
do
even
on these.
shred, bro?
I don't shred. But here's the thing on the guitars. They're simple. Aesthetically, they're simple in their build. The pickups are, as Chris told me, 80s tribute pickups,
Yep.
which I don't like the name of because tribute, like studio,
Has other connotations in the Gibson world.
yeah, within Gibson's own brand, they have studio acoustic guitars that are really high end.
We talked about this with Faded, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they have studio Les Pauls that are entry level. They have other entry level-ish Les Pauls called tributes, and then they have the tribute pickups. I don't believe that these are related.
No.
So this is their tribute to the 80s.
Let's think of it this way. These pickups were made specific for these 80s styled guitars.
And they are heavy duty.
Yeah, they are high output PAF style pickups, but when we say that, we're not talking about the 50s PAF style. They're overwound, uncovered, humbucking pickups.
Yeah. And so the pickups are enough, right? These things rock. However, I did throw a DS1 on the V because I kind of wanted to see what it sounded like. And it turns out if you put a DS1 in the chain, every guitar sounds like a DS1.
Just add some flanger and then you'll forget what it is you're playing.
Yeah, I wanted to scream a little bit, and it screamed. However, you'll notice that I didn't do the DS1 on the Explorer and just cranked it up. And even through a Humble Blues Junior, it gets pretty heavy duty and it rocks. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the specs on the guitars and why they sound the way they do. So both of them are all mahogany bodies, mahogany necks, rosewood fingerboards. Really nothing that should be surprising so far. They do have the 80s style hardware. So it's Grover tuners. On this, it's got the smaller buttons because it's the Explorer headstock. That's got the big blocky buttons that were typical of the 80s. It's all nitrocellulose finished. And then, of course, you've got your setup with the controls between these two guitars. And it's kind of a simpler setup. I do
Simple jack.
kind of like like this the way that it you don't have to. It's not the 4 knobs that you have with the Les Paul. And let's face it, most people never turn the tone knob on the guitar anyway. It's very stable because you've got your stop tail and your tune-o-matic. But these pickups being high gain, why do they sound the way they do? They hit the front end of whatever amp or pedal you're using with like a veracity, like just ferocious tone. It's a lot of gain, and that's when we could talk about gain structure all day long. It's one of my favorite subjects because I have preferences, and we talk. This is what we do at work. If you ever come by one of the stores and you just sit around us and some of our other guys long enough, what you'll hear is a bunch of conversations about gear.
You'll hear silence and then Chris from the back office going, "You want to talk about gain?"
So
gain.
if you take a vintage style guitar, here's how it's going to work. If you take a vintage style guitar like a 50s Les Paul, and the output on those pickups is a lower gain. They're compared to this underwound. They've got covers on them. All of these things. And this is true of single coils, then the level that you're hitting your pedals or the front end of your amp is lower. And so what's hitting the preamp stage of a tube amp or even a solid state amp is this kind of certain line level. If you increase that line level with hotter pickups, then what you're getting out of that preamp stage before it even hits the power section of an amp is this overdriven, broken up, distorted sound. And sometimes, for particular songs, you want that, and for other times, you want the other. Generally speaking, I would say lower output pickups, to me, sound more musical because they're less compressed. There's more of an acoustic quality to it. They will also feed back. And so if you are then using high gain in your amp, it can be a nightmare. This is one of the reasons, like back in the day, Eddie Van Halen was pulling covers off of pickups and stuff, is realizing microphonic feedback was a thing when he was turning his amps all the way up. Enter, in the 80s, things like this, where you could look cool on stage in your leotard and big hair, and also play through a screaming amp without having the feedback that you don't want and get all the feedback that you do want.
There we go. I mean, I don't have the leotard. My hair's not big, it's long.
We can change that.
And I don't have a big ol', crazy amplifier. But I do have a skill set that does not include metal. I have a DS1, and I got 2 black designer guitars.
Perfect.
So let's rock and roll. I do think I have thoughts. Let's take a listen. I'll tell you my thoughts on the other end.
All right, so there you have it, the hard rock stylings of Cooper Greenberg.
E, G, A.
Listen, I learned a long time ago, okay? This is called the upper register. This is called the cash register, okay? This is where the money's made. Have you noticed how balanced that actually feels?
Well, it's way funner to sit with than that one.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting.
Now, here's a couple things that I got off the top of my head. One, these are a no-brainer for somebody that's playing heavy-duty music because I do think that people like the look of these guitars for what they convey on stage for metal music or whatever. And a lot of those people would probably look for a Flyng V or an Explorer or something and then switch out the pickups to something heavy-duty. You've already got those in there. This is out of the hard shell case, ready to rock and roll.
Yep.
There is also the millennial urge to be sardonic and ironic that you see with artists like maybe Phoebe Bridgers. She's playing like a BC Rich on stage, or you get John Mayer playing like his Jacksons and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think that there is also a sort of a trend to go little off-brand and bring in something weird into your set. And I do think these sound pretty good on like a clean tone, or if you're playing something that's not metal, if you want the look and you want to be, you know, spitting in the face of rock and roll, you can do it with these guitars as well. But yeah, I think they're cool. I do like the natural versions of these, and maybe that's because, you know, I'm a 90s guy, all right?
You know
But
what?
Chris already bought both of these. So.
Yeah, no. You know what I love about Flyng V's and Explorers is that they came out in the 50s. I love that people were criticizing Gibson of being a little too stale, a little too traditional compared to Fender. And so they're like, you know what? Check this out. And they overshot it by about 3 decades. And so they didn't
Go back.
they didn't really come into their own until like, you know, 70s, 80s. People like started embracing these
I need
designs.
the Modern, dude.
The Modern, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, like Firebirds and Moderns and Vs and everything that's in the designer series, I think is cool and it's really unique, but it's really funny to look at history and just go, yeah. Ted McCarty was like, yeah, check these out. Everyone's like, what? So
Yeah, just wait till we get some Theodores in here.
it's like that scene in Back to the Future. Like, I guess you're not ready for that, but your kids are going to love it. So there you go. It's
Yeah,
for the kids
you guys
that are
might
now.
not be ready for this, but your uncle's gonna love it. So,
No, you know, if you wanted this in the 80s, the good news is you now have lower back pain and a 401k and are retiring in about 10 years. So you can get one of these now.
heck yeah, yeah. They're rocking guitars. They're way different than what I think we both usually show off on this
Yes.
channel. However, since they're the first of the 80s guitars that we've gotten, and probably the first Explorer with a headstock on it that we've gotten, we got to show them off and show you that we do more things than just really pretty acoustic guitars. We show you real rock and roll stuff as well.
Absolutely. So if you want more information about these with all the specifications and the photography and everything, you can go over to our website, which is
alamomusic.com, where you won't see an add to cart button on either of these guitars, but we have them. All right.
Yes, that's right. So you can't purchase it on our website with an add to cart button. You can chat with someone online and get it that way, or come in the store, or give us a call. Carrier pigeon works as well. We'll get them into your hot little hands so that you can relive 80s stadium rock dreams, you know.
Oh, yeah. That's rock and roll time.
So it's what I, would dream of doing when I was a kid. So very cool. I like to see this kind of thing. And you know what? Hey, if you like this kind of thing, help me convince Cooper, because I want to carry some really cool shreddy stuff. And yeah, so peer pressure, put it in the comments below.
We're going to do polls for all of our ordering moving forward. We have the budget to get one Prestige or one Gretsch Pro. Which one do you want? You know?
Tough call.
It's what we get to have. We're talking about gain staging and orders. That's what Chris and I like to talk about. And throwbacks to the 80s.
So if you like this kind of witty banter, make sure that you keep coming back, subscribe, turn on notifications, like our videos, and we will see you the next time.